Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us here for this conference presentation. My name is Dr. Eremionkhale. I will be talking to you about a virtual exchange program that my colleagues and I implemented in our intermediate economic level courses. So what we've done here with this work and our research is to add to the existing literature by speaking directly to the benefits of incorporating a global competency enhancing program in the economics curriculum at the collegiate level. Okay, so a little bit about us. We are three of us in this group. There's me, Dr. Eremionkhale at Georgia State University, and my colleague, Dr. Yana Sade at University of Southampton. We both implemented this virtual exchange program in our classrooms. And we have Dr. Yidi Sun, who we brought into the project later on to analyze the results we got from our pre and post surveys of our students. All right, so a little bit about what we did. We approached global competency via the intercultural sensitivity scale, where we're looking at the cognitive dimension, which is the brain, with the affective dimension over here, which is the heart, and the behavioral dimension over here, which is the actions. So we're seeing how, the students, the way they think about global competency, the way they act with their global competency, and the way they feel about it, how these three things work together within the intercultural sensitivity scale. Now, this intercultural sensitivity scale has 5 components or categories. They are interaction engagement, respect for cultural differences, interaction confidence, interaction enjoyment, and interaction attentiveness. We don't go out and directly ask the students, what is your interaction engagement? Instead, we use this ISS scale that was created by Chen. That asks the questions, a series of 24 questions, the same questions before and after, on a Likert scale, and asks them to answer the questions quickly with the first impression, and then these questions are grouped based on these 5 categories. And we can then see if there are any changes in the students' interaction engagement, respect for cultural differences, and so on within the ISS, the intercultural sensitivity scale, measuring their global competency, resulting from this virtual exchange program. Okay, so a little background. Virtual exchange is something that has been used to implement or achieve global competency enhancing goals within the classroom in different fields, stemming from STEM fields, including chemistry, biology, to arts and sciences fields, to help the students become more aware of their place within the global economy. Now, as you can imagine, this flows very nicely for us with economics curriculum, and that's something that Yana and I have implemented here. So it's collaborative learning through coursework. In our case, we had 14 teams. Each team had 6 to 7 people in it. About 2 from UOS or Southern, University of Southampton, and 4 or 5 from Georgia State University. This ratio is because we had more students at Georgia State University. However, in each group, we had a leader from both University of Southampton and Georgia State University. We had co-leads in each group. So their objective was to analyze the behavioral policies in the UK and US surrounding COVID, specifically the nudge techniques used by either country. We asked the students to have 4 meetings virtually, and more if they needed to, but 4 was the minimum, culminating in one final individual assessment worth a big chunk of their course grade. All right, so we found that a big portion to help these projects succeed, was to have these meetings scaffolded leading up to the big project submission, where the first meeting was key for them. where they got to introduce themselves to one another, pick a group name based on something they had similar or in common. And then for each of these meetings, we required a deliverable from the students as a way of increasing their incentive to participate and create something good in each meeting, as opposed to just chat about soccer or football. So what Yidi is going to do now is talk us through the results from the project, the before and after, seeing if there was any impact of this virtual exchange project on the students' global competency as measured by the intercultural sensitivity scale. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy. My name is Yidi. I'm happy to take from here to present our results. To compare students' global competencies at the beginning and the end of the project, we analyze the data from students who completed both surveys. We test the difference of students' IS scores between the pre and post project with two sample comparisons tests. We employ both t-tests and Wilson rank sum tests to ensure our results are reliable and robust. So the results presented in this table, we could see, except respect for cultural differences, all differences of the scores between the post and the pre-VE project are positive, so which indicates that students' global competencies in intercultural interaction have been enhanced by the project. It also demonstrates the significant difference in interaction competence, enjoyment, and engagement. So the findings suggest the VE project has enabled students to feel more confident and enjoy participating in the intercultural communication. And then we disaggregated our sample based on gender and multilingualism. We could see the female students display the lower scores on the IS scale and individual dimensions compared with the males prior to experiencing the VE project. However, the following participation in the VE project, female students exhibited higher IS scores than the male counterparts. Because the foreign language proficiency has an important role in understanding a different culture to achieve the success in intercultural communication, we also divide our sample based on the number of languages that students are proficient in. So students who speak one language and students who can speak multiple languages. As in from this figure, at the beginning of the project, students who speak one language initially had a slightly higher score on the IS scale and its individual factors. However, at the end, students who were multilingual outperformed than their monolingual counterparts. We investigate further in terms of ethnicity groups. The highest mean IS score has shifted from Asian or Asian American British group to the mixed or other ethnic groups, which experience an increase in each dimensional score through the project. We developed the comparisons test for paired groups. So based on total score, female students experienced a significant improvement in their global competencies after VE project, as evidenced by the significant increase in interaction engagement, interaction competence, and attentiveness scores. So the results indicate that the VE project training had a positive impact on female students' attitudes towards intercultural communication and motivate them to make their efforts to better understand the intercultural interaction. Also here, we could see the average of the IS scores for students who are multilingual has been significantly increased after the VE project. So in terms of the ethnicity group, there is a significant difference in IS overall score of the mixed or other ethnicity groups. So it's particularly in aspect of the interaction engagement. To summarize, the effectiveness of the program is evaluated through the pre and post surveys, and the VE program effectively enhanced students' global competency skills particularly among the female and multilingual students, and highlighting its potential to promote diversity and inclusion in economics education. So what we can do in the future, we could investigate the long-term effects of the virtual exchange programs on students' career trajectories and the broader impact on the intercultural skills beyond the academic settings, assess the scalability and sustainability of the VE project across the different universities. And that's all we would like to present today. Please feel free to contact us if you are interested in detailed results analysis. And thanks for listening, and we are welcoming questions.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Thank you for choosing and watching my presentation. I'm Naoyuki Kuida at Nihon University. I would like to talk about my presentation. The title is How to Teach and Learn the Economy in Japan, an attempt to use a guidebook. Some of you may wonder why a guidebook is necessary. It may be natural for people to think what readers should do is to read and understand the text. Unfortunately, in Japan, due to the textbook written in English, some teachers may hesitate to use the textbook for some reasons. For example, they are worried about their students' understanding. Some readers may feel the same way. When I read the core textbook for the first time, I thought I came across a wonderful textbook. I'm not a salesperson of the core textbook and not in charge of public relations in the core project, but I'm a person inspired by the textbook. I have to say, and I have to admit. Since then, other members and I have been considering how to use the core textbook in Japan and decided to put priority on two things. The first one is to help Japanese overcome English barrier. The second one is to encourage Japanese to read the authentic text in English at first. As one of teachers of English, I think the textbook is well organized and helpful for learning English. So we translate the text into Japanese. Many Japanese may read the text in Japanese, not in English. We were worried about that. Therefore, we decided to make a guidebook for assisting readers in reading the text in English and understanding the text in English. I hope and I believe that our guidebook enables readers to learn economics and English simultaneously. Then, there were two ultimate goals. The first, to motivate Japanese students to learn economics and English. The second, to encourage Japanese students to interact with international students around the world through the core econ. By learning the common economics textbook, we can have discussion on what we've learned with international people. In order for students and leaders to adapt to globalization, they should change their attitude toward learning and try to get something useful for their future. Listening to others, talk carefully, and exchanging ideas with each other smoothly are very important social skills for bettering their lives. We hope the core textbook and our guidebook will help Japanese do them. As a result of pursuing an ideal, we consist of our team. There were 13 members. We've been working on the project since 2018. In our guidebook, each unit has 7 sections: summary, English vocabulary information, special selection, background knowledge, tips for readers and teachers, comprehension questions, and frequency-based keywords list. The summary section is written by teachers in church, and they picked up some important concept. Then they explain the concept with some example in Japan. The fourth section, background knowledge sections, and the fifth section, tips sections, tell readers what they need to know before reading the unit, which helps readers decide when they should read the unit. Then, after reading the unit, they can confirm their understanding to answer Japanese version questions. I mean that they are closely related to Japan, and readers can imagine the situation easily. The rest of the sections are helpful for learning English. Special selections shows selected sentences from the unit and explain the sentences from economic viewpoints and English learning viewpoints. Have a look at one of our guidebook's features. The table shows vocabulary information in the Unit 16. We've assumed the users of the guidebook is mainly college students after graduating from high school. So our vocabulary information is compiled for them. By checking vocabulary coverage information, students can check the difficulty of each unit in vocabulary based on the coverage information between high school textbooks and the core textbook. They can prepare for studying the unit. Out of 211 words, 70 words are necessary for readers. Why can we say that? Loafer 1989 states that the content comprehension requires that the number of known words exceeds 95% of the total vocabulary. The list shows what words are unfamiliar to readers. Have a look at the list. Words in the list are shown with an original index. If we called ALV index, ALV is an abbreviation, already learned vocabulary index. The index of the maximum is 100, and the index of minimum is 0. For example, the index 90 means 90% of students have learned the word in their high school textbook. 5 words with low index implies students might not know or have learned them at high school. Teachers should pay more attention to the word. At the same time, students also should do that to understand the content of the text. With the rest, not only words used in economics characteristically, but also words which are unfamiliar to students can be highlighted. Have a look at the word good. The word with ALV 100 looks familiar to readers, but the use of the word as noun has a different meaning. Goods are things that satisfy people's wants in economics. Words with high frequency and words with low ALV index are very important, but due to the collaboration with economics and English teachers, effective vocabulary lists for readers can be compiled. Have a look at our research future plans. The first step is to complete our guidebooks. After that, we will ask students to use our guidebook in our classroom. After that, we will ask students to give us their feedback on the use of our guidebook. Based on their feedback, we will try to revise our guidebook. Finally, we would like to confirm the effectiveness of our guidebook. Near future, our guidebook will be open to the public. So our files will be downloaded, can be downloaded through the internet. We believe that we can promote the use of our guidebook in Japan, and near future we will conduct an analysis on economics and English education through our guidebook. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions on my presentation, feel free to contact me. Thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Hello, my name is Lavinia Moldovan, and I teach economics at Mount Royal University in Calgary, Canada.
Hello, my name is Alpna, Bhatia, and I teach economics at the University of Colorado at Boulder.
We will discuss a photo assignment that we ran between our two courses. I teach microeconomics and Alpna teaches macroeconomics.
And to make it even more complicated, Lavinia teaches in person and I teach asynchronously. This is the instructions that we give our students. The students need to take a picture that relates to something that they see as they're maybe taking a walk, but relates to the concepts that they are learning in class. Once they take this picture, they have to explain the economics of it. So what do they see when they, that's taking the picture? Then what do they think when they take this picture, take a look at this picture? And then what can they wonder more in terms of this picture and connecting it to economics of their every life. We then ask them to post this picture with a brief synopsis on Padlet. And once it's on Padlet, then they also need to provide feedback on the pictures taken by a peer from their own university and from also their international peer university. Once all this work is complete, then we do ask them to take like a PDF of their assignment and upload it on Canvas or D2L.
Now, why are we doing this? We would like our students to make connections between the course material and their own world, and we would like them to engage with the material, if possible, outside of the classroom or other types of assigned homework environment. We would also like them to develop their communication skills, both in terms of explaining the economics of an image and also communicating with students who are not in the same location and who might not have a deep understanding of our students' environment. So they need to be able to explain everything well. We would also like to be as inclusive as possible. So each student is allowed to bring in a topic of their choice, of course, following the assignment requirements. And then we would like them to be able to retain these economics concepts for the long run. So we all know that in the short run, they do well on tests, for example, but then we want to ensure that they make connections.
So how do we implement this assignment? Well, both Lavinia and I give separate instructions and grading rubrics to our students because the topics are different. We have actually quite detailed instructions and quite a detailed grading rubric as well, so the students know exactly what we expect of them. We give them sample pictures and descriptions of what Lavinia or I may have been seeing, thinking, and wondering lately when we took pictures. So we give them a complete set of instructions and grading rubrics, and like mentioned before, we ask them to post on Padlet and then review peer submissions. We do ask the students to upload their work and feedback often as a PDF document. So they've collected their picture and the feedback they've left on to peers and put it on their LMS. And then once we have that, each instructor then gets to go and grade their students' work in one place. And the grade is private between the student and the instructor. I do want to quickly jump back in and say, when we ask the students to post their picture on Padlet, we ask them to just use their initials. So if they're not comfortable sharing their full name, they don't have to.
This is how the website looks. Alpna and I have different sites. So the students from Calgary would upload their work here. The students from Colorado would upload to a different link, and then they get access and they can read both their classmates' work and the work of the students from the other university. So you can see that they just post an image and then they discuss it following that See, Think, Wonder framework. Now here we asked them to upload about 150 words because otherwise it looks very long, but they can write more in the final file if they wish.
This is one of my students from CU Boulder, and this is where their humor and their personality start shining through, because in the assignments we say, take a break, take a walk, be careful of the weather and mindful of the weather, but think about economics. And they titled their picture, Taking a Break from Economics with Thinking About More.
And again, this is when their sense of humor comes through. This is an image that shows the direction to public washrooms, and the student correctly identified them as a common resource.
This is a picture that is from one of my students that they posted about a national park in the US, and then it was followed up by, a student in Canada thinking about tourism sector there. This is another student, again, a Boulder student who had posted about, just going up public roads and looking at like public views. A student in Canada was like, well, I had to look up aggregate demand and aggregate supply, but I learned something new. So you would have noticed a theme, right? I have macro students and they're talking about aggregate demand, aggregate supply, and government spending. Lavinia students are talking about public resources and public goods and common resources. And that's definitely a challenge for us. The biggest challenge, of course, is finding a time during the term that works for both of us schedules at the university. So, for example, in fall, when we decided we were going to look at government spending and look at public resources, that timing was amazing. It worked out. We were at the same time covering similar things. However, in spring, we did have to maneuver our assignments to coincide the timing.
And as we mentioned before, my course was run in person and Alpna was teaching online asynchronously. But it worked out well because the submissions were done online anyway. So I hope that this added an element of engagement for the students who were taking the course online. And we also asked them to submit both on the Padlet that you have seen before and on our learning management systems. Again, Alpna works with Canvas, I work with D2L, and we each had to have access to our own students' assignments so that we can grade them properly, and then grading was not made public, obviously.
Places. So what's our pedagogical motivation? I think, aside from the fact that we do genuinely believe that this really leads to a deeper understanding, this is a great opportunity for cross-cultural dialogue and collaboration between students sitting in Boulder, Colorado, and students in Calgary, Canada. I think that also leads to an understanding of different economic systems and just the different perspectives that students bring. Even someone in their own class sometimes brings a different perspective than they may on government spending. And then, of course, the analysis and comparison that we see of the economic events that are being captured in these photos, it's really interesting and really engaging.
Now, the assignment really incorporates place-based learning very well into the course, in the sense that the students actively have to think about and also go to a certain location. They have to take a picture. They have to really reflect on the connections between that location and economic theory, which is a very good example of experiential learning. It also offers opportunities to incorporate some of the guidelines of universal design for learning into the course, because it provides multiple means of actions and expression for the students. And it also, again, as we said before, enhances engagement in the course. So
did it really enhance engagement in the course? I actually just went out shamelessly and asked my students, what did you think of the assignment? And I actually got really positive feedback where students said that they really enjoyed relating pictures to daily events, but then also that they really enjoyed interacting with students in Canada. And one of the most interesting comments that we got, and it actually is the picture that we had posted on the slides before. I had a student who replied back to the student posting about the Banff National Park that parks are also public goods in Canada. This is like, this is like, wow moment for them. Now, of course, we were hoping for, deeper understanding, but knowing that they're now making these connections, that even the definitions are not existing in isolation, but, it's the same economic concepts, is like great that they can make those connections.
Now, if you're wondering where to start, we uploaded some files under this link. You can see the instructions that we provided for our students. We also provided a template for the assignment so that they follow a certain structure, which makes it easier for them to organize their thoughts and for us to grade their work.
Here are some of the work that has influenced our thinking and gotten to us this point. We would love for you to join us and have your students interact with our students if you're interested.
Hello, my name is Pedro Tamayo and I am an economics instructor at UNED, the Distance University in Spain. With this presentation, I would like to share with the economics teaching community our experience from using the textbook The Economy from the Core Econ team in a low degree. These are the objectives of my presentation, the main ideas and evidence I want to share about our experience from using the Economy textbook. A first objective is to share with the economics teaching community my experience from the use of the text Economy as a basic teaching material and autonomous distance learning in a political economy course for law students during the last 2 academic years, 2021 to 2022 and 2022 to 2023. A second objective is to show here this experience from my own personal perspective as coordinator of this subject and responsible for the decisions that were taken for its implementation, together with the assessment that can be obtained from the few data provided by the surveys to which the students respond, from the opinions expressed in the course forums, and from a few comments made by the students in external forums that can be found on the web. And along with all of the above, I would like to contribute my personal reflections on the suitability of the text Economy as a basic material for independent learning, as well as to propose and share some practical ideas to facilitate its use by students and instructors. The institution where I teach is the Universidad Nacional de Educación a Distancia, UNED, in Spain, a university that uses a distance learning and teaching model similar to the Open University in the United Kingdom. This model was initially designed to allow a blended approach, but over time it has evolved into one in which most students adopt a self-study approach with online support. As coordinator of the subject, I proposed to the rest of the instructors when designing and programming the subject in 21 for the 21 and 22 academic year to start using the Economy as a new basic textbook. The complementary material of course 0 for economics was maintained, the use of which was recommended before starting to study the syllabus. Based on this consideration, we decided that the syllabus of the subject will be the one shown on the screen. Selecting the chapter of the book already implied the first dilemma in deciding which one should include and which ones not to include from each of the two branches of economics, micro and macroeconomics. Well, once the 2021 and 2022 academic year began, the first expression of rejection of the new textbook by students began. It's present in the existing forums in the learning management system of the subject. This reaction took the form of as a reaction on part of many students, both for its contents and for the expression used in its translation into Spanish. There were complaints for students about the text, referring to the paper edition of the textbook, issues with visualization of graphics, font size, typos. And students expressed a feeling of disorientation regarding the assessment activity due to a lack of multiple choice text from previous years that could be used as a reference for them. This expression of rejection came not only from the students, but also from the professors involved in teaching the subject. Some rejection of the change in instructor in the department, which forced them to change their practice and update their knowledge, and some rejection by the tutors in the associated centers, who saw how most of the material used to support students was not useful now. Many of them also felt that their knowledge was out of date. The most frequent complaints were related to the complexity of topics and the use of complex expression, a poor translation into Spanish, errata in the printed edition and in the web version, an excessive use of graphics and complex graphics, excessive use of mathematics, and very complicated exercises. Well, once the academic year 2021-2022 was over, and after analyzing how the subject had been developed, the instructor of the department considered that it would be good for the student to have a guide for the use of the new textbook, which will show them how to use it, how not to use it, and which could be a kind of map or GPS for each of the chapters of the book. So, based on the experience from the previous year, from the 2022 and 2023 academic year, a study guide was developed, available in PDF format into the learning management system used at the university, to be used together with the textbook. This guide is provided under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial Share Alike 4.0 international license. The guide is divided into two main parts. A first one consisting of sections devoted to general issues, as how to use the web version of the test, graphics, the utility and importance, basic calculation skills, great importance to introduction to the idea of constraint optimization. And a second part where for each chapter the student is given an orientation as to what he was going to study next, the basic learning objectives for each chapter, in relation to the contents of the previous chapters, the main difficulties he may encounter with reference to each of the figures used in the book, and a list of the relevant concepts or terms in that section, as shown here for the section The Hockey Stick of History, Income, Growth. From my point of view, I think some self-criticism has to be made with regard to how the introduction of the new textbook has been handled, especially in terms of its presentation to students, and also with regard to the late or the Friday generation of supplementary material. Several questions have arisen from this experience, from which I do not yet have a definitive answer. Maybe may it have been the wrong decision? Is the Economy a suitable book for any introductory level of economics learning? Are there different entry routes into economics depending on whether they are economics or non-economics degree? Is the different assessment of learning materials by teacher and students inevitable? And are there different ways of learning material by teacher and students? And are there different ways of learning economics? Well, some tentative answer to this question I can give in this moment. I still think that the economy, Economía, is a very good textbook, and that the reason that led to its adoption at the time still stand. The modern approach adopted to introduce economic ideas, good didactic approach, cross-cutting concern with real and current economic issues, linked to the study of ideas, format, free access, accompanying material, etc. Anyway, some measures are needed to improve it. Among them, the Spanish edition should be updated in terms of the correction of errata, or that the Spanish translation be reviewed to improve it. In my opinion, the next version, 2.0, could be a new opportunity, a great opportunity to continue improving a precious material for teaching and autonomous learning in economics. Thank you very much for attending this presentation.